Are you boycotting AX Chibi? I'm your brother from another mother, Evil Aniki, and today we're reacting to some news that went a little viral over on Instagram this weekend. I'm continuing my coverage of the AX Chibi versus Anime Pasadena convention lineup. TLDR, basically Anime Pasadena and AX Chibi are lined up on the same weekend this year, which makes them hyper competitive for attendance. They've been doing everything they can to get attendance. AX Chibi launched a small free event this past weekend to get $20 wristbands for the weekend, and then both events announced a day zero, and they're just really trying to push super hard to get more people going to their events. Now, there is some news that dropped this weekend about AX Chibi, and that's what we're talking about, the AX Chibi boycott. Because I must have saw 50 different cosplayers post about this on their Instagram stories, and this is wild. They sneakily updated their Anime Expo Chibi legal documents. So if you want to be a vendor or an exhibitor or a performer at their convention, you have to agree to their legal documents. And we're going to look at this right now. And yeah, let's just jump right into it. So this is the thing people are not happy about. And I don't know if this is actually continued from last year because it says 2024 on this. But also if you click on the policies, it says they updated the policies in January 1st, 2025. So I think this might have also been updated, but maybe it's just not fully updated, or maybe these were partially updated and they just didn't update the date here. I don't know. But if we scroll down to the part that actually matters, because it's actually quite a bit down here, and we're going to be doing the artists first. So we're going to look at Artist Alley here, right? So we're going to come down here to number 24, limited non-competitive. And this is going to be a mouthful, guys, but basically what this is going to what this boils down to is it says artists appear I'll read it for you guys. It's probably the best way is just for me to read it verbatim. Artist agrees to appear exclusively at the event and not to appear live or live streaming at another convention, concert, or venue within 100 miles of the event, during the event, 2 weeks before the event, and 2 weeks after the event. The limited places and times. I don't know what they're talking about, limited places and times. Unless SPJA consents otherwise in advance in writing. In any event, if artist is appearing within 100 miles of the event 2 weeks before or more after the event, but within 2 months of the event, artist shall not announce that other appearance and show until after the event, because SPJA has invested so much into producing and publicizing the event at which artist appears. SPJA would be irrevocably harmed if artist appears live or live streaming in a limited places and times around the event at which they are appearing. Artist agrees not to produce, create, or cause to be produced or created any Japanese cultural event or convention in Southern California within 2 years after artist's appearance at the event. Nothing herein limits artists from distributing or marketing their own intellectual property through their normal, customary distribution and marketing channels if the provisions contained herein are deemed to exceed the time or geographic limits or any other limits imposed by applicable law in any jurisdiction, then such provisions shall be deemed reformed in such jurisdiction to the maximum extent permitted by applicable law. This is a bunch of legal jargon. It's boring. It's. I know. I get it, guys. It is not something you guys really want to read here. But let me break this down for you. Basically, what they're saying is you're not, if you want to be an artist in Artist Alley at Anime Expo Chibi, you can't be at another event 2 weeks before or 2 weeks after AX Chibi, which is absolutely insane. A lot of artists, they do weekly events. So they're at 1 week, they're at like another show another weekend before. And so asking someone to say, hey, you can't be an artist at any other event for a full month is absolutely wild. But also, then they're also saying, you can't, and that's within 100 miles. So I guess if you're flying in for AX Chibi, that would be fine, but that's wild. And then, but there's also a second part of this where it says, if an artist appearing within 100 miles of the event or 2 weeks or more after the event, but within 2 months of the event, artist shall not announce that other appearance until the show after the event. So basically, if you're appearing at another event after AX Chibi, or, you know, you're not allowed to announce that you're going to be at that event. How do I describe this? If you're going to be... So first of all, you can't be at another event for basically a whole month, right? So the 2 weeks before and then 2 weeks after. But then continuing for 2 months after AX Chibi, you're not allowed to publicly say that you're going to be at another event, which is absolutely wild. And then also the part where they said you're not allowed to, this is the most insane part to me, I think. Artist agrees not to produce, create, or cause or to be produced or created any Japanese cultural event or convention in Southern California within 2 years after artist's appearance at the event. I don't know if this is something they can legally do. This is absolutely insane. They're saying this is a non-competitive. Like, so you're saying if like this is wild. Basically, they're saying they're scared. Anime Expo has come out and already said that they're worried about the Olympics kind of taking their place in 2028, and they're looking at other cities to move to. And now they're basically coming out and saying, hey, any artist that comes to our event for the next, until we leave town, you cannot make another convention for 2 years if you're part of this event. So that's wild. This is them basically trying to put everyone who decides to be an Artist Alley member at their convention into a stranglehold by saying like, hey, if we leave for 2 years, you can't make another event. That's wild. This is so wild. This is beyond like absolute like insanity. This is something they need to remove from this document immediately. I've never seen like this is wild. This is so insane. Like I've seen so many other conventions vend at other conventions as well. By the way, guys, like I've seen Anime Los Angeles, right? I've seen Anime Los Angeles vend at ToonCon. I've seen them vend at Anime Pasadena. I've seen the Anime Pasadena vend at other conventions. I've seen, a lot of the local conventions tend to have a lot of crossover with each other because they know a lot of each other. I've seen Anime Los Angeles at what's that one? Annie Fest in Torrance, right? And it's just weird that like Anime Expo is coming out. They're trying to swing and get all these artists saying like, hey, you can't create any events while we're out of town if the Olympics happen. That's basically what this is saying. Because the TLDR, if you guys didn't know, Olympics are going to be in 2028, and they're going to line up almost like to the dot with Anime Expo. And so Anime Expo is probably going to get pushed out. And Anime Expo is looking at another city to go to, and there's this huge competition right now between the Anime Pasadena, Anime Riverside, and Anime Las Vegas company. I don't even know what you'd call them as a conglomerate, but they're really competing with the Anime Expo company because first of all, Anime Pasadena they moved their original weekend back by a week, and they announced their convention like 6 months prior to AX Chibi, right? But they knowingly moved it back a week to line it up to where because usually it's Anime Pasadena and then a week later it's AX Chibi, and so they knowingly moved it back a week. But AX Chibi didn't announce their convention weekend until after Anime Expo, and given they were probably locked into that date, but for them not to announce it and not to react to like say, hey, one of the other biggest fan favorite conventions in the area is moved into that weekend, maybe we should move back a week or something, is just like the level of brain rot that these executives must have at the Anime Expo. And apparently Anime Expo is a non-profit convention, so them trying to do this is absolutely insane. And this does not end here. This is for the artists, by the way. And so this is 100 miles that you are not allowed to attend another event within 100 miles for a month. And so let's look at what 100 miles would look like here on a map. So, okay, so if here's Ontario, right? Let's say, I don't know why it's pulling up over there. I don't think that's the Ontario Convention Center is like right here. I don't know why it's pulling up over there. Is it over there? I don't know why it's pulling up over there. But this is basically about the same map. So basically, you wouldn't be able to go to San Diego would be blocked off. Definitely Riverside, everything in LA, everything in Orange County. Man, all the way out to Palm Springs, Barstool, like Oxnard, Santa Clarita, Thousand Oaks, and this is just like for the artists. This is so it gets worse for the performers. By the way, guys, we're gonna look at that in a second. But like, let's say they decide to implement the same rule for Anime Expo, like regular Anime Expo. This would affect because San Diego Comic Con is like a week or two after Anime Expo. That would affect San Diego Comic Con, and so basically you wouldn't be able to, if you vend at Anime Expo, you wouldn't be able to vend at San Diego Comic Con, which is absolutely insane, like insanity. But asking like so let's say like there's a lot of events that happen in Los Angeles. Like this is wild. I just don't understand how they're going to say, "Hey, you can only be at our event for this whole month." Like that's really cutting into people's money. Like I understand that AXGB is probably a profitable convention for a lot of people, but it's nowhere near the same levels as Anime Expo regular, right? So like it's just it's brain rot. It's brain rot by these convention organizers, and they're trying to do this because they're trying to go to war with Anime Pasadena, and I don't think it's going to work. And after they just had this free event over the last weekend at Thirsty Waters, which is like a juice boba type store. They gave out $20 wristbands for their convention for the weekend, and a bunch of free Anime Expo skateboards. And yeah, they basically just shot themselves in the foot, over this, right? This is insane. But now let's go back to this. I want to look at the one for the performer, because the performers have the same thing, and this one is wild to me, like that you can even say something to this, like to a performer. So the performer has one here under, where is it? I think it's a little bit higher. Limited non-competition. Guest performer agrees to appear exclusively at the SPJA show and not to appear or perform personally live or live streaming at another convention, concert, or venue within 400 miles of the SPJA show during the 2 weeks before, during, and for 2 weeks after the SPJA show. The limited places and times. Unless SPJA consents to otherwise, blah, blah, blah. And then it's the same thing, hey, we're not, you can still sell your IP, but you can't also make your own event. Like, look, you can't produce, created by any Jap. So this is wild to me. Like, I'm shocked that they're putting this you can't make your own event type thing in there. But let's look at what 400 miles is, because 400 miles is a lot bigger. Here's 400 miles. So if you're a performer and you're looking to go to AX Chibi, you wouldn't be able to perform for a whole other month. You wouldn't be able to perform any shows in San Francisco, San Diego, Phoenix, Arizona, Las Vegas, Reno, Sacramento, parts of Utah, Baja California. Like there's so many, like this is insane. This is absolutely insane. The only people who benefit from a rule like this are people who are flying in from across the country or from another country. So if you're from like, New York and you're coming into AX Chibi, you could get a whole lot of benefit out of this rule. But if you're local, this is basically like, this is a big FU to all of the local performers. Even though I wouldn't consider Vegas technically local, it's still West Coast, right? So this is saying like, hey, you can't be making as much money if you're local. Like if you're East Coast and you're flying in just for the weekend, or if you're from Texas, or if you're from basically anywhere else in the world other than this 400-mile radius. This is wild. This is insane. And I don't even know if this is like if that's how they would enforce this, right? Because I'm looking at a 400-mile, like this is a radius, right? This is a radius calculation. So 400. I don't know. I don't know if this is 400. I think this might be 400. That's wild. That's wild, man. I don't know. Man, I didn't. This is not the type of video I thought I was gonna be making today, guys. Yeah, that's the radius. I thought I was going to be doing a video talking about how both conventions seemingly were desperate to get, a foot up in the local attendance, and that both conventions had announced a day zero, because they both did announce a day zero. And then on top of that, AX Chibi had also announced that free event with free badges, or not free badges, but with free skateboards and for $20 wristbands for the convention. And I thought, man, AX Chibi's doing it. But then this news drops, man, AX Chibi, I don't know what you're doing, guys. The SPJA, I'm going to be honest, the SPJA really feels like it just does not care about the local anime community in Los Angeles. I've been feeling this way for a couple years, and this is my solid opinion when it comes to Anime Expo. I love Anime Expo. I've been going to Anime Expo for a long time, and I'll continue to go to Anime Expo. But it really feels like Anime Expo, the SPJA, just does not give a shit about the local anime community. They're so bad at organizing their cosplayer meetups. They're so bad at including community members. They used to allow a lot of local news bloggers and vloggers and content creators to go to the convention under press and industry, and now they don't allow that. Now they're like, you have to have a proper website, and even then they get really judgmental about like how big your website is. And it, like, I've seen people who've been vlogging anime conventions for 20 years, and it's just because they're not assigned with like a big website, they don't get approved anymore. And it's only in the last couple of years that they've been doing this. And man, SPJA, you need to get your shit together, my dudes, because first of all, like, you're feeling like really strange right now. You're feeling like, Like man, I'm not liking it. I'm not liking it at all. I'll be honest. I've never really liked AX Chibi. I've gone to AX Chibi twice, and I think the 4 years that it's happened. And I'll be honest, like going to AX Chibi, it really just feels like they're pushing you to buy stuff. It feels like honestly, if you go to AX Chibi, the number one thing I think you can do at AX Chibi is if you missed out on Artist Alley or if you missed out on buying things, honestly, if you just missed out on Artist Alley, AXGB is probably the next best spot to go. I also say AXGB is okay for cosplayers because they bring the cosplay sets. But all the outdoor area of the Ontario Convention Center just sucks so hard. There's like no shade. It's all concrete. It gets so hot and like all the and like they usually have some decent food vendors, but it's like man, like you could get some better shade out here, man. You could get some some tents out here for people to be sitting under. You could like I don't know. It just man, I could go on and on. But yeah, this is interesting. I don't know what the SPJA is thinking with these rules. It's absolutely insane to me that they would even try and implement something like this. I don't know if this is in. Let me look at the exhibitor here. I wonder if it's under the exhibitor. Yeah, look at this. If we go to I'm now under the exhibitor. So if you want to be an exhibitor at the convention, so we looked at Artist Alley, we looked at performers. Now the exhibitor has the same thing within 100 miles, and you can't make your own event. So like, I don't know what they mean by this own event. Like so like Hoyoverse is going to be an exhibitor there. I'm sure they're giving an exemption to Hoyoverse because they're a big convention. But I mean legally, technically under this contract, if Hoyoverse agreed to this and Hoyoverse wants to start launching their own little mini convention in the next 2 years, they could come in and say, hey. No, 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 you can't be doing that. We have a contract. You vended at our thing. Like, you can't do that. So this is just really shooting themselves in the foot. They need to remove this whole section. This is such a like an anti-community move. This is so bad for them. It's such a bad look for them. Such a bad look. Let's see what sponsor. What do sponsors have a non-competitive competitive? I don't know. I don't know if Hoyoverse would be considered a sponsor or an exhibitor. Maybe more of a sponsor, so maybe they get away with it. Um, Cancellation, export, compliance, local, blah, blah, blah. I'm not seeing a non-competitive for sponsors. Um, okay, that's fine. That's fine. Um, yeah, sponsors can get away with it. So maybe Hoyoverse would be fine. I don't know if Hoyoverse is considered a sponsor. Now let's look at vendors. So vendors are a little bit different than exhibitor. So exhibitor is usually like a bigger company. I don't know what a vendor could be like. Like maybe sometimes they have like a swap meet area. I wonder if that would count as this as well. Let's see if they have a non-competitive agreement in the vendor area. Non-competitive, non-competition. Vendor agrees not to use SPJA's confidential information or intellectual property to compete with SPJA, and further agrees that it will not sell, lease, license, transfer, market, or develop or cause to be sold, leased, licensed, transferred, marketed, or developed SPJA's confidential information or intellectual property except as directly required and expressly permitted to fulfill vendor's performance obligations to SPJA. Vendor agrees not to establish, produce, market, or cause to be established, produced, or marketed any business that is reasonably considered to be in competition with SPJA in the greater Los Angeles area, California, or other primary geographic location in or to which vendor provided services to SPJA. Vendor may not copy or take for vendors separate use any non-public spreadsheet, email, or database of SPJA without written permission from SPJA. If the previous provisions contained herein are deemed to exceed the time or geographic limits of any other limits imposed by applicable law in any jurisdiction, then such provisions shall be deemed reformed in such jurisdiction to the maximum extent permitted by the applicable law. What? So basically, they say you can't make your own event as well, but they kind of worded it differently. But the big thing with this one is they don't mention the 2 years. So for an artist and for performers and for the exhibitors, they said 2 years. They don't say 2 years here. They just say you're not allowed to do it. And then here they say like so if you're a vendor, if you're just a vendor, they could come down on you 10 years from now. There's absolutely nothing like wow. That's really shady. This is wild. This is wild, guys. Um, I think this is an L move on the part of SPJA, of Anime Expo and AX Chibi. I think they're really like shooting themselves in the foot. This is a bad look, bad look. Uh, I'm gonna say it, guys. I'm probably gonna be at Anime Pasadena, and man, this is wild for me, guys. Like, normally I would go to both of them, and I honestly was thinking of going to both of them this year because usually I go to both of them. If I do go, I didn't go to either of them last year. Um, but normally, like, I go to them both. Like, it's wild. So I'm really disappointed in this, in SPJA. I'm sure they'll have some type of reaction to this because this news really traveled fast over Instagram. It kind of went viral on Saturday and Sunday, so maybe they'll have some sort of new update about it today here on I'm going to be posting this on Monday, so maybe they'll have some update to it then. But man, let me know what you guys think of this down in the comments below. I'm going to leave the video here for you guys. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. I got some good vlogs coming out, so check them out. But yeah, that's it for today. Bye.